because of this incident and all the attention it's getting, a lot of people, especially people who are not too educated and familiar with Web3 and crypto, don't even get the concept of self custody. They just see crypto as this like one big thing, and this just tells them, yeah, crypto is a scam because these things are happening, when in fact there is, you know, all these other options and so much other cool stuff being built, and so much for transparency, security, efficiency. And so I think honestly at this point in time, it's also imperative that the Web3 community as a whole like come together to actually showcase the strengths, just because it will take a while for us to kind of shift back that narrative that's now been, you know, fostered because of all the shit that's gone down over the past few weeks.
Chat, can you hear me? Chat, is it still glitching for you?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Ah, cool. Yeah, so it glitched. Yeah, so guys, it glitched for Elon as well. So when I co-hosted him and he accepted, him and Chet both glitched, so the mic wasn't working anymore. So you could listen in. I don't know if he's still listening in. So I thought I'd update you guys. But suddenly everybody wants to speak, including I see 2 exchanges requesting to speak as well. But we'll keep going, guys. I'll let Fubar Chet just look into if there's any updates. Just unmute and speak. But it's fucking insane. Before we continue, Ninja and Chris, guys, like it just shows the power of live audio rooms. And like, we started this room just to talk about FTX, and eventually it got 20k people speaking. Got Elon coming in. All exchanges came in. We saw all the press as well requesting to speak. Didn't bring them up. So
let's just do a rewind. Did Elon really come up here and say Doge to the moon? I just want to make sure my ears were
now
clear.
hold on, Ninja. Hold on a minute.
No,
hold
the
on.
charts,
Hold on.
you should see the Doge chart.
I don't even want to talk about it because it's up 7% since we've entered this
Chris,
thing.
Stop.
10%.
Don't 2%
now, hold on. I want to answer a question.
No, he backed Doge, he backed Bitcoin, and he backed Ethereum.
Okay, but
that
Ninja,
is on the record. Everybody heard
that. Okay, you can't just say that. All right, he might get in trouble. Now listen. There's a good reason people like Elon. But there's
hold on, guys, ease up. I just realized we do have, like, we usually fuck around on here, but we do have a responsibility. Chet, you're the source of truth. Did he say that, yes or no, or you're not sure?
Yes, he did say Doge to the moon. That was the first words out of his mouth.
Chet, you're gonna be on CNN or Fox or Reuters quoting this. I wanna, and this is recorded unless Elon decides to delete the recording. Did you hear Elon say Doge to the moon?
Absolutely, 100%, without a question. Yeah.
All right, bro. You've heard it here first. I don't know whether we just made it. whether.
But Mario, let's not skip though. He also talked about Bitcoin and Ethereum, and he talked. Like, let's not skip.
And a wallet, bro, and a wallet.
And custody them too.
And I think in.
Oh no, he didn't say that.
Okay, but wait a minute.
He did not say that. He said maybe.
The biggest thing that he said is that he recommends everyone should withdraw their crypto from exchanges and take control of their crypto again. That, I think, to everyone who's here tonight, is the biggest lesson. This is what you should listen to. Because as long as your crypto is in the control of third parties, shit like this is going to happen again and again, and you're going to lose your crypto.
And also just worth mentioning.
Go ahead, Blau.
Worth quick mentioning is yes, 1000% Kim, but also not just hot wallets. Get yourself a cold wallet. It's $150. If you have more than $150 worth of crypto, it is worth securing it with another $150, and you will keep it forever, and you can secure it way better than a hot wallet, whether that be MetaMask or any other digital wallet. So highly recommend.
I would like to note that he specifically said not your keys, not your crypto, which is pretty fucking baller. And if anybody takes a deep look at Doge, it's not hard for a man like Elon to understand what he probably sees in it. Yes, the meme is fun, but it's actually the only cryptocurrency. I own zero Doge, by the way, but it is designed like a currency, right? Because it has a natural inflation of 3.5% per year. It is a proof of work algorithm that has merged mine with Litecoin and mostly decentralized with a 10-second block confirmation. So if we're being realistic, it actually does work closer to a currency than like any other cryptocurrency.
Yes,
and if that's
by
his
the way,
play,
Chris, that's why I asked him too, because I wanted to. I've never heard him like talk about it from like a legitimate technical point of view, but I think one thing that would have been good to get at is if he was going to talk about Dogecoin and Twitter, actually talking about TPS matters a lot if you're talking about scaling it to a network with tens, if not hundreds of millions. And right now, Doge has a TPS of around 33. So that would have been my main question. It's like kind of sad that it got rugged just because I think, you know, the meme is fine. I hold no Doge, by the way, so I'm not trying to pump it either. I just take them at face value, to your point, Chris, that a lot of people want to discount the meme, but most people don't even know the consensus it's running on or like how distributed the system is. I think they have over 4,000 validators. So to your point, there are aspects that are there.
Sorry, Alex, and just worth adding that you can dual mine Doge with Litecoin, so a lot of people can do that.
That's the security. That's the security layer. If you try to 51% attack Doge, you lose like $50,000 an hour. So it's actually pretty much like, I mean, for the most part, it's decentralized, which is really interesting, right? And people think with the high supply that it has a dramatic effect on the price. It does. Like, I don't think a $4.20 Doge makes sense, right? Because at 65 cents, it's a $90 billion market cap. But do I think that Doge to the like being the price of like a Canadian dollar one day is like nuts? No, I don't think that's nuts. Not if you've got 100 million people that can potentially use it over Twitter. And you can talk about 33 TPS, but if we look at the Bitcoin blockchain, when you do a SegWit transaction from like a blue wallet to an exchange, a lot of times at one confirmation, it actually credits your account because we know we can trust the blockchain. So we don't really have to wait for 6 confirmations. So technically, once it's final on chain, it can be credited to the system if it's like a closed loop, like Twitter would be, right? It would only be when you are withdrawing it externally off of Twitter to your own Doge wallet that you would probably have to deal with a 33 TPS. I'm not shilling it, but I'm just saying from a technical aspect, it's not the worst thing.
IMSO, I own zero Doge too, but hasn't he also, Elon, been saying this for a while that he's bringing payments to payments to Twitter? That has something he's been saying, correct?
They filed for.
He said that here
as well.
So not only are they going to bring, is he going to bring crypto to Twitter? My understanding is that there will be some kind of reward system or tipping system where Twitter users can earn income with their activities on Twitter and
with their creator activities.
With their creator activities, and
yes.
I believe they will be able to choose if they want to be compensated in fiat or if they want to be paid in crypto. And I think we can all assume what crypto is going to be the default option.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too that it's like a shame we didn't get to hear is to what extent is he actually interested in integrating crypto? Because, you know, obviously there's the payment settlement layer, but if you look at some of those texts that were leaked between Elon and Jack, obviously Jack is working on Blue Sky and the app protocol. So it's like, would you have, you know, an open domain registrar? Would you have the ability for users to actually take their social graph with them? Like, I'd be very curious to hear too what else he'd be considering putting on chain. Because obviously you could do the financial ledger, but there's more.
For what it's worth, though, like honestly, like that's not his priority right now. Let's just be
agree.
real.
And I will. So I guess my question is he aware of it?
With all this? Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, with all this stuff going on right now, he's got to like play the game and kind of keep his head down with respect to like crypto, putting resources into the crypto side.
Yeah, of course.
And we've got to disclose, Alex, that me and you are both investors in DeSo, so this is a topic that is close to heart. Let's just be transparent. I see where you're going with this.
I am also on Farcaster and Lens, so I've pretty much plugged. And fuck it, I've used Mastodon.
Yeah, we're in Lens as
all.
well, but not Farcaster. Chat, I've sent you a co-host invite just to bring Simon Dixon in. By the way, Fubar, has there been any updates since the good news that you mentioned earlier? Because it seems to have finally quieted down on the FTX side.
Yeah, so updates on that side. They did go ahead. They were, I think, dumping a lot of ERC20s, like in clips of 2 to 3 million single. So I think they got rid of all their SHIB, all their ApeCoin, whatnot. But then there was a tweet from the general counsel who came out and said that they had initiated preparations to move stuff to cold storage. It's unclear exactly what that means. Maybe that refers to the multi-sig actions, and there was only a partial hack and not a full hack. Things do seem to have quieted down on a I say on a relative basis. Who knows?
Let's do actually. I want to kind of pivot to another point. So I see Elon is in the audience. So let's try something else. Let's try each of us one thing that we would like to see on Twitter. Kim, you can kick it off, and everyone else can think of one thing. Maybe that would be cool if Elon takes one of those things and implements them, and then you guys can take credit for it. But one thing you'd like to see on Twitter, added or removed or changed. Who wants to kick it off? Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people on this stage are going to agree with this, but Twitter DMs right now are like really, really difficult to sift through. And to be honest with you, I end up taking a lot of my conversations to Telegram or to Signal. And if you could keep that on the actual Twitter application itself, it could be like an everything app, right? And I think that's a huge aspect that's missing. It's really good for one-to-many right now, but for one-to-one engagement, it is extremely difficult. And I could go on with like ideas on how to change it, but I'd like to start with like the problem and need, and it's not being met.
Cool. Elon, there's one for you, Fubar. Do you want to take the second one for Elon?
All right. This is a nerding out one, but I think it would be super cool to see bring your own algorithm for the feed. Currently, you've got two options. There's latest on followers and then popular stuff. But it would be really interesting if, as process of opening up Twitter to be a more protocol less company, to see if people could develop their own algorithms for trending topics, trending news, interesting people. I think could simultaneously help spam bots and also enable a lot more user choice and engagement. So I'd love to see open sourcing which feed algorithm you use.
Yeah, let me tell you what I would like to see.
Go ahead, Kim.
All right, so I think allowing people to live stream on Twitter would be awesome. Long form video would be awesome. Any kind of content where we are now limited, to 2 minutes or file sizes. Like all of that needs to be completely unchained, and there needs to be also some sort of hosting package. So if you are a content creator or you produce a show or you want to do professional spaces and things like that, that's low-hanging fruit. That's what Elon could implement to bring way more influencers and creators to Twitter.
All right, man. Blau?
Yeah, I would say identity verification, like a rigid form of identity verification. Obviously, something that's already on Elon's radar with the parody account context, but I think that like having a strong form of identity verification is something Twitter has always been lacking. It causes scams, bots, and all the problems that exist. And at least, when there is, the request of a user to be anonymous, that's cool. But if you're a public figure, there should be a way better system of verifying a public figure's identity.
Jack?
Yeah, well, first I'd ask Elon if he, with the changes to Twitter, if it was really intentional that he's basically gone from like a proof of stake to proof of work protocol. That's essentially how I see it. You've got to pay, you've got to put in work to get your check now to combat all the spam. But as far as like applications, things I'd want to use, I'd actually like to look, be able to see if the algorithm, past or present, has adjusted my like people who see my stuff or my friends, if they've been affected in some way. So maybe some sort of interface that allows me to see, you know, how my content or somebody else's content has been affected.
Anyone else? Franklin, do you want to add something you'd like to see on Twitter? I think Radio Shack is coming up. Yeah, Chet, if you can bring up Radio Shack, because it's glitching for me.
Radio Shack is actually already up here, and I'd love to actually.
Yeah, I can't see. Yeah, I can't see Radio Shack. I can't see Frank. My thing is glitching up.
Twitter's been glitching bad. I couldn't even see Elon originally at first. I thought someone was pranking us until I was actually able to get back in.
All right, go ahead. Radio Shack, and I think someone's telling me Frank had his hand up as well. So I'll Radio Shack and then Frank. Go ahead, Radio Shack. You there, guys? What's up? What's up? How are you, man?
Hey, what was the question? What am I answering?
So we got Elon listening in the audience. So we're asking everyone to give us one thing they'd like to see on Twitter that you'd like Elon to implement.
How about a search feature for the spaces, or like discoverability? Like,
bro, I'll put that as my favorite. Look. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna try to convince Elon. We saw this space and obviously other spaces report live before Bloomberg, before CoinDesk on the developments with FTX. We warned tens of thousands of people on the FTX website and app. By the way, anyone listening, don't delete the app if you have FTX on your phone. Don't go to the website. I'm not sure if the Trojan and the hack is still ongoing. So Spaces seems to be pretty damn impactful, and we saw the audio room hype during COVID. So I would ditto that by Radio Shack. Frank, what would you like to add?
Hey Mario, I got one.
So much. Oh shit! Is that Simon? Are you here as well, Simon? I can't. Yeah, no, I can't see you, man. I didn't know you're here. So I let Frank.
Elon has crashed Twitter Spaces.
Yeah, man, he crashed it. He crashed it when he came up as a co-host. Yeah. Just before you go, I know Frank had his hand up for a while. So do you mind if I give Frank first? Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I'll go really quick here. I just think
Thanks,
the
bro.
API could be a lot better utilized. Like, we've built a lot of different interesting things with your Twitter API. It's just super limited. And so we wish you guys would expand that out a lot more. And then, of course, I have to throw in obligatory Solana NFT support for hexagons. Thank you.
Yes, that was going to be mine. Solana support for hexagons, baby. The tech, hey, look, the tech doesn't care about the price. That's all I got to say, Alex.
Simon?
I just want to say, actually, hey Kim, hey Mario, everyone. I just woke up to this carnage, man.
Hey, Simon, I'm really interested to hear your opinion. Let's just pivot back to FTX.
Yeah, let me do the Twitter one, and then we'll go back. But
but Sam, before you Twitter one, Simon, like we've been on Spaces together every day for the last 4 days covering the FTX saga. You've been on the space even before that, debating important topics. Man, it's 11:50. I'll tell you today the day, just to give you an ID. I'll give everyone an ID to tell you how crazy this is. So yesterday we were doing a space about the hack, and we're seeing the hack live. And then, things started getting ugly. We got a lot of DMs that were a bit concerning. So we had a call, and Chet, who's on stage, who used to work in the intelligence in the Air Force. And I don't know what I can share. Can I share the nuclear weapon thing, Chet?
Yeah, let me do the Twitter thing. Then we'll go through them.
So Chet decided to go to the Bahamas, and that was just a few hours ago. Last night for me, or past midnight for me. I'm in Dubai. And then eventually made a few tweets, got a lot of impressions, and then went to bed. I'm in bed, and then I started seeing the hack. Jump out of bed at 10 a.m., do another space. My team's asleep. I wake two of them up. We do the space. Immediately blows up to 5,000 people. And then Kim.com decides to message. So we were just breaking down the scam live and looking at the transactions, thanks to Fubar. And then Kim, for some crazy reason, comments for Elon to join the space. Elon says no, but then ends up joining the space. So here I am at 11 a.m., barely functioning because I haven't slept for the last 3 days. And then I've just got Elon on stage. And everyone freaking out. Suddenly everyone wants to speak, including every exchange, a lot of press. And then we have a chat with Elon. For a while it glitches, and here you are, Simon. Welcome back.
Wow.
Sorry, Simon. Hey, real quick, Zach XBT put out a tweet that kind of clarified some things. I think it would be useful for the audience.
Please, read it out, please.
Yeah, so he says he's responding to another tweet, but somebody basically asked him, hey, what's going on with the white hat and with the claim that these funds are safe or whatever, how that one tweet was worded. And he said, oh, no, the FTX bankruptcy proceedings, they were going to wait to transfer assets to cold storage, but due to the unauthorized transactions, they started their processes immediately after seeing the hack. So he's basically confirming there's two events happening. There's the hack and there's the good guys moving things to cold storage.
And who's speaking? Sorry, because my whole Twitter space is glitching. Jack. Oh, that's you,
This
Jack.
is Jack.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Remember, that's
just
what I said earlier, Mario, that there's multiple people that when these types of things happen, multiple people will attack and do something like this. This is not just one thing. It's like
so how much?
different
So
wolves and vultures.
just to confirm, how big was the hack at the end of the day? Does anyone know the figures? We're at 600 mil, I think, or 300 mil.
600 million. 600 million was the last numbers that we saw. Over 600 million in total. And granted, that's now of course claimed by FTX to have been moved to cold storage wallets. But as Kim was saying, that's claimed by the General Counsel to have been moved to cold storage wallets. And so there's.
So this makes it, bro. This officially, this makes it. Just quick shout out to Zach XBT. If anyone wants to stay updated, highly recommend you listen to him. But what was the number? 600 and what? Chat 600 and.
It was over 600 million.
All right, so this the Ronin hack, Axie, we had them on stage a few weeks ago. That was 625. The Poly Network hack was 611. Binance earlier this year, last month, October 2022, was 570 million. So we may have witnessed the biggest hack in crypto. Matt Gox was 473.
No, we had CoinCheck was over $1 billion, wasn't it?
CoinCheck is at 534 million according to Investopedia.
Well, you had the up token one or whatever that those dudes had like siphoned out $4 billion in like 2018. And then you've also got Mt. Gox was actually $500 million when Bitcoin was like $600. So to date,
yeah, but it was 850,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Technically.
Yeah, so my numbers are in dollar terms. So everything I'm saying is in dollar terms, just to be.
Just to give it to people's perspective, right, Mario?
You
because
are right.
Like at the time,
by
dollar value,
it's the largest hack online.
Guys,
can we use this? We use this as an opportunity to say get a hardware wallet one more time? Just get a hardware wallet one more time.
But we got to be careful. People are going to start dumping their fucking crypto. You have to remember how much money gets traded through this market in like a day, right? And we have to remember that in a day, Bitcoin's traded volume's like $40 billion. So even in the event that $600 million has been hacked, we've seen that some of it is Tether, some of it's been flipped to DAI, some of it was shitcoins that have been spread out amongst DEXs, and then a large concentration of Ethereum and BNB, those are being traded, like sent over. What we do know is that if BNB and Ethereum start to take a hit, because they know exactly how much is there, there's a chance that there are whales that might eat that up after like 10 or 15%.
Can I just ask? Is Elon actually listening here? I can't.
I just asked, so I can see him in the audience, and then I just asked my team; they couldn't see him, so I'm not sure if he is still there or not. Also, just quickly, I'm just getting people asking when's Hunter Biden is not today. Hunter Biden is the next show, so I'm going to pin the tweet.
Can I share a really important story about Twitter during this whole saga?
Twitter?
Yeah. So I first came on a Twitter space because of this whole Celsius bankruptcy and all that stuff, and all the bankruptcies in there. But Twitter space throughout this whole saga has actually saved quite a lot of lives. And one of the events that happened on Twitter space as a result of this is somebody put all of their money onto Celsius. And it was so he couldn't actually tell his partner or his wife, and he just had a baby. And he was, he couldn't face the thought of telling his partner that he'd lost all his money and she didn't know about it. And he came on a Twitter space, and we were all just doing our usual thing. And he came on and he was crying his eyes out. And he was saying, Simon, these Twitter spaces, like, it's the only thing that stopped me killing myself. And he said it driven him to alcoholism. And he said, look, Simon, I've got to be honest, I'm coming up right now. because I've reached a low point, and you've got to tell me something, otherwise I'm going to blow my brains out. This happened on one of these Twitter Spaces, and it wasn't a joke. It was deadly serious, and everybody on that Twitter Space literally just poured their heart out around, like, what had happened and what had happened to them. And this guy just felt so comforted and so in community and so supportive that he was around other people that were going through the same thing. That the very next day he sent me a picture on Twitter, a DM of his like newborn child, and said, look, in that moment that the community supported me on Twitter Spaces, sorry, it's a bit emotional. I looked at my child, and I remembered, because I was about to kill myself. He said, I remembered that money's not important, it's just money, and my son needs me. And he said, I'm going to check into Twitter Spaces every day, and when I hit a new low, I'll come back up. And he's been checking into Twitter Spaces, and as everything progressed, he started to realize that there's a whole community that's with him. And I'm sure there are other people that don't speak on the stage that weren't as brave. But because this technology exists, because people were able to find other people in a similar situation in that moment in their life, it actually saved lives, which I think is just an incredible thing. And it really has helped being able to speak to people in this. So Twitter Spaces came at the right time, got traction at the right time. But obviously, what I'd love to see is a Lightning Network integration. That would be awesome. But yeah, just wanted to share that there's human impacts here while we're talking about all these numbers.
And I think
Simon,
it's also really important that we are telling everyone who's here right now listening, who has been hurt by this FTX bust and who has lost money, and some of them I'm sure will have lost a lot or maybe even everything. Don't let this be the reason for doing something stupid. You're going to get out of it. It is just money. You're going to find a way to get back on top. So don't give up. And what Simon just shared here with us, take the story, picture it, and think about your family, think about the people that love you, your friends, people that care about you. Like, don't let this event be the breaking point for you. You're going to come out of this.
Yeah, so Kim, maybe you could share, because like everyone knows, I invested in some of your tech, and you got some new stuff coming up, like a long time ago. But like, Kim, share how you've obviously been put through by building technology situations where you must have hit a point where you feel like the entire government and you're going to lose your freedom. How do you get through those moments when you hit those rock lows?
Wow. Oh man. I mean, I've been in this mess for over a decade now. It's not over. The New Zealand government still has to make the final decision if they want to extradite me, which is, probably coming before the end of this year. And then I have 2 more avenues in the courts. But the whole thing will have taken 12, 13 years by the time it's concluded. And then if I do ever get extradited, I have no hope that I would ever have a fair trial. Very few people understand that my case is not just a copyright case, right? They did not just send 72 people with machine guns and 2 helicopters and all this stuff to my house in a copyright case. They were punishing me because I was the biggest donor to WikiLeaks. So after I saw the collateral murder video, I was so upset, and I felt that this was so wrong, what the US is doing around the world, killing all these people. And I said, look, I got to do something that more of this truth is coming to the public. So I, spent quite a bit of money and gave it to WikiLeaks. And that, of course, put me on top of the target list of this Pentagon group that was looking for all the partners and supporters of WikiLeaks to, crack down on them. And that is why, a lot of things went the way they did in my case. They were really trying to punish me. And so, for me to get through all of this, obviously I have kids, so they helped me a lot. Like when I was really, really down, really, really sad, I would go, to the kids' room with them and cuddle with my kids and just cry my eyes out and just being with them, that gave me the will and the strength to push through and keep fighting. I think if I didn't have my kids, if I didn't have a family, I may have already said, I'm logging out, the simulation is over for me, and I'm going to try to do better in the next game.
Yeah, I think there's so much to unpack there. Yeah, look, the importance of financial censorship. This is a fight. Bitcoin is a fight for freedom, and financial censorship is removal of freedom of speech. So, I backed Kim's technology. I think it was back in 2015, 2016 or something, when he was looking at how you could use all of these decentralized storage layers and decentralized currency in order to solve the problem of people being able to share content and have freedom of speech. And the fact that what happened to you was all connected to your financial transactions is obviously an insight of what's already happening, but what's going to go on to steroids when we have central bank digital currencies. So when we're in these moments where we're creating these $600 million hacks and billions of dollars of touching client money and all that type of stuff, it's really, really important to understand the importance of what we're actually creating here. And while you have all these different cryptocurrencies that have different layers of centralization, decentralization, we can't take our sight off the main goal of the importance that we now have this proof of work chain that we know has problems in terms of transaction fees and all that type of stuff, but it's still our world's best shot at achieving digital hard sound money, and it's the only reason money you can own, money you can spend, and money that has a fixed supply. And it's the only reason that all the other stuff is being built that may solve some of the privacy layers and stuff like that. But when you look at someone like Kim's case, literally, he's been fighting for freedom for over 15 years for building technology and contributing to perfectly legitimate technology that keeps the government more accountable. And that's why the importance of these messages of what we're here for. Sometimes you have to remember that amongst all this carnage. So thanks for sharing, Kim.
Yeah,
thank you.
Hey, real
man.
quick, Mario,
I really appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Who was just jumping in? Was that you, Frank? Because I
Jack.
can't see. Oh, Jack. Is that breaking news, bro?
Yeah, I would just
before you share it, because I know that chat has as well. Just want to kind of reiterate what Kim. If my audio's too loud, let me know what Kim and Simon said. Simon, I'm really glad you brought up that topic and the experience you had with the one of the spaces. I think it was the Celsius bankruptcy. And Kim, you mentioned keeping the space as long as possible. I think we should, at least for the next few days and weeks. There's a lot of people struggling. I have one team member of mine who leads a whole department who lost a lot of money 2 days ago, and he's shut down completely. We're trying to bring him here to Dubai to spend time with us. So for anyone that's listening that was fucked by what happened, let us know what we could do other than sharing experiences, like Simon and Kim did, and we'll keep doing those spaces, and I'm sure there's other spaces as well. Keep joining those communities, and remember one thing, that's probably the most important thing, is that you're not alone. And Simon, we discussed this yesterday in the space. I think it's important we bring it up in every space. You're not alone. There's others that are struggling, and there's a saying that I've always I've been through for crazy shit, so I was saying I've always reminded myself, when the world feels like it's falling apart, it isn't. It's just you feel like it is. And I recommend you read Ryan Holiday's book, The Obstacle is the Way. It's my recommendation. It's a very short book, and it helped me deal with, what there was 1 year in 2018, crypto bear market. IBC, my company, lost millions. We got scammed. Fruity, my e-commerce business, got scammed by a supplier. I was diagnosed with a tumor that was bleeding at the time and was going into a personal crisis. Sorry, and that was in 2018. So we've all been through it, and that book helped me tremendously. So Simon, appreciate you bringing it up. I know that Frank, you want to share your experience with FTX and Alameda that invested in your project, D-Gods. Shout out to your project as well. Great NFT project. And before you do that, I'll just give the mic quickly to Jack and Chet with the breaking news that you guys have. Chet, it's in the DMs, and Jack,
Yes.
I'll let you go first.
Yeah, the news that I saw come across. Well, this is specifically coming out of just the proof of reserves data that came out of Binance. But the question is why opposed here is why Bitfinex and Tether hold the same amount of BTC reserves essentially as Binance, this on its own definitely raises questions. It's something that I don't think a lot of us have really looked into before. And I'd be interested to hear some of the panelists' thoughts on this as well. But I mean, the theories that they presented here in this tweet is that either Binance is insolvent, or Tether is using BTC as backing, or both. I'd like to hear some of the panelists' viewpoints on that, if that's possible.
Yeah, so I've always shared the story of the creation of Binance. The reason Binance became a massive success was because of Bitfinex. So Bitfinex was pitching all of the exchanges to use Tether, and no one was using it. It went to Kraken, went to Bitstamp, went to all of them. They wanted to create an interoperability layer between the exchanges, so that you could arbitrage without going through the pain of taking fiat in and taking fiat out, and you could send fiat value using Tether to solve that problem. So Binance grew rapidly because it didn't need to deal with banks, which was the biggest problem with the exchanges. Bitfinex and Tether were going through major problems. They almost reached the stage where they had to withdraw the money from the Taiwanese bank that they were using at the time, which was a layer on top of Wells Fargo, and literally draw it out as cash and bury it in the ground because they couldn't solve the banking stuff. And then they managed to find the banking partners, and then the only way to process withdrawals at speed was when they had the Tether issue, because they had to use crypto capital, which was an illegal shadow bank, and they were doing all sorts of money laundering and stuff. And so they had to launch the token in order to fill that hole. But the connection between Binance and Tether dates back to when they didn't have banking, but obviously Binance has solved their banking issue over time and stuff. But yeah, just wanted to share that. It doesn't fully explain why they all matches, but that's the foundation of Binance.
I didn't actually know that, but my little breaking news was slightly different, and I'll do this part and then I'll step down. And Mario, great spaces. Thanks for having me up here as always. The subject here is for FTX and the app update. Some smart folks have, I guess, pulled down the prior up, so before the update and then after the update, and they compared what was actually changed and what went on. And it looks like there's some chatter on Twitter. Multiple sources are saying that they believe that it was not malicious, but that it did remove some core components of the app. One being the peer-to-peer transfer. So I guess it shut down peer-to-peer transfer within the app itself, and it appears to not be a malicious attack. So I think that that's worth pointing out. And then before I step down, guys, I just, you talked about, Mario, you said that how during these hard times, remember, you're not alone. And I wanted to echo that to the audience, and also add just to remember that the hard times do pass. And that the hard times don't last forever. So, even if you're in your worst moment, if you can at least tell yourself, hey, it's only going to suck for a minute, it's only going to suck for a day, a week, a year, but I can get through it, then sometimes that's enough to pull you through it. So that's it. Good night, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, man. Thanks, bro. Frank, you still there, man? Because I have my screen is fucked up. Hey man, yeah. Good to have you here. What was your interaction with SBF? And I'm not sure if you spoke to SBF, but with Alameda and FTX.
Yeah, happy to share. So FTX was a small check in our startup Dust Labs, and to support what people are saying on Twitter of like a lot of top employees having no idea about this. Basically today, the person we were talking to in Alameda just said, "Hey, I'm not working here anymore." Didn't give us anyone else to contact there, so they just like dipped out. And in terms of the person we talked to at FTX Ventures, Amy, I saw her like live on Twitter, basically find out that FTX was insolvent as well, and we haven't had any communication with them either. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience, talking to FTX throughout the fundraising process, and my everything since like this whole insolvency news. It just seems like it took a lot of the employees there by surprise from every interaction that we've had. So, it looks like it was, at least from my anecdotal experience, what people were saying on Twitter, that it really was isolated to the people in the Bahamas. They have the back door, etc. It seems like, from the interactions that I've had, that's like any anecdotal evidence I can help throw into the overall discussion. That was my experience.
I appreciate you sharing. Just so you know, all speakers, if you put your hand up, I cannot see it. So if you want to speak, you just unmute and speak. Or chat, you could take over if you see your hand up. But do you want to introduce a speaker you added?
Yes. We just got Dogecoin right here from Voxel Network. I imagine your timing isn't too
Hold on,
coincidental.
is that their name, Dogecoin Ride? Do you know? You there first? Can you hear us, guy? Dogecoin.
Dogecoin to the moon,
bro. I'm not. Okay, listen. Hold on,
brother. I heard,
bro. Listen. Okay. Chat. My audio's fine because someone told me it was too loud. It's okay now.
Your audio's fine.
Okay. Man, don't thank me because I've done spaces where I was not too critical of Dogecoin, but I definitely wasn't a fan. I was just literally in the middle. So what you experienced in the space is probably something you're going to be happy for, but don't give me any credit because
I'll take the credit. You're welcome, Doge Army. We did it.
Whoever spoke,
I'll give you credit. I'll give you credit, and here's why. You run one of the best spaces, and obviously Elon's very involved with them. He wants to improve them, so he's going to come to the best spaces first and see what's going on.
Yeah, bro. I can't.
Yeah,
I can't take too much.
Congratulations, man. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, but I'm not feeling anything because it's 12:14 p.m. and I haven't slept since yesterday, so it's been getting close to 24 hours. But yeah, look, having Elon on it's definitely worth it, bro. The part that was more worth it than Elon is just Simon, you bringing up the struggles that a lot of people are facing, and I just want to keep doing that. And then the second thing is Elon. But yeah, Dogecoin Ride. Anything else to add to the discussion? How is the Dogecoin community reacting to the FTX debacle?
Well, they're reacting like everybody else is. It's just it's unfortunate that kind of Doge has gone down. Kind of with everything else. But everyone knows about Doge. We have diamond hands. We stand strong, and it'll bounce back.
All right, chat. Who else do we have on the stage? Because I can't see.
Hey, can I ask the Doge guy? So when I was listening, when I was listening earlier, you were talking about how it had like a more fiat like inflation and stuff like that. You're onto something there because Gresham's law is that the more you can devalue a currency, the more likely it is to be spent. The more harder the money is, the less likely it is to be spent. So gold, had really struggled to function as a currency because people wanted to store it as a value. But, John Maynard Keynes and Keynesian economics figured out that if you can dilute the money supply, then you can increase the velocity of money using Chicago economics, monetarism. And so if your whole argument is that if you have a higher inflation rate, then people need to spend at a higher rate and it's more likely to function as a currency, that is the story of fiat currency. The more you dilute it, the more people are to spend it and less likely to save it.
Yeah, and I'm just, by the way, Simon, I'm just checking. The price of Doge did pump. I know some of you were saying it, but I didn't
It
actually check it.
absolutely did.
And
It
just so
did.
you know, yeah, but this is before. This is like no one. The only people that heard this are people in the space, which is not 5 million people. It's like what we had like 50, 60, 70,000 people. I don't know how many it was when Elon was speaking. So when this goes up, you know, when we finish this space, the everyone can listen to the recording, and then the press who are messaging the team now can actually verify that Elon said this. So yeah.
And one more quick thing, if you kind of look at my PFP, I'm in a project called the Doge Club. They're really respected. They trend on OpenSea, but we're getting a lot of hype in our community just because of that. All NFT projects,
Bro,
it all kind of goes hand in hand.
We can't mention NFT project when
I
at a
apologize.
time like this. No, all good, man. Don't feel bad, but like this is the time that NFT projects are mourning right now. It's they're still in shock from what's happening. But Alex, we should have said, you know, we should have gone down the DSO to the moon thing, man. Like, why did we go Doge?
I honestly, I more so than anything just wanted to have like a serious convo with him because I think, you know, he is obviously an intelligent individual, and I take it at face value if he chooses, you know, a blockchain that it's not like strictly a troll, that like he has some reason for it. But
If I wasn't as Alex, not only that, if I wasn't as sleepy as I am, and I would have really challenged him on a lot of the things about the whole Twitter acquisition and the whole mess with the blue verification. I got actually tricked by who was it? Chet, when I brought up someone, I thought, oh, the guy that invested hundreds of millions in FTX, the baseball player. What was his name?
Brady. You were thinking Tom Brady, I think.
Yeah, I thought I brought up Tom Brady like an idiot. And there's another company, a public company that someone created a fake account, tweeted that the public company is giving away the medicine for free, and then the stock plummeted as well. So these are topics that we brought up.
We could have asked him about Binance and FTX's battle to invest in Twitter as well. We could have got the real.
True. But what did he say about Sam? He said something negative about Sam, like he gave away bad vibes or something, no?
He had no idea who he was.
Yeah, he tweeted
that
that earlier in the day.
Like,
but
there's no way this guy can make a cap. Like, just like there's no way he actually has money or something along those lines.
Yeah,
he said there was something off with him.
I mean, I gotta be honest though. Like, having spent time with Sam personally, like I don't think it's not that obvious. Like this, no one saw this fucking coming. I gotta be honest. Like,
besides Elon.
Yeah, sure. In hindsight,
we should have asked, but I don't know who's speaking by the way, guys. But we should have asked Elon to bail out crypto.
Yeah, actually, the Celsius community were the most skeptical about Sam of all the communities. They were really
which is fucking hilarious. But the real note to read here is the note that Sequoia wrote. Like, honestly, it's the most real take on their investment in FTX, how they're writing it down to zero, and shit moves on, at least for them, of course, not for all the people who are affected. But the reality is, this is not the first time there have been bad actors who do fucked up things with counterparty risk, with counterparty power. And I think, again, only because there's a huge room here, I don't think I've had more than $300 worth of assets on an exchange for the past 6 years. Like, just don't do it. Don't do it.
So I see she just had her hand up. Terra, would you like to go ahead and speak?
Yeah, thank you. I feel so privileged to be up here with all of you guys. I really appreciate it. I'm hiding in a corner at the club right now on Twitter Spaces rather than actually hanging out. But I just wanted to say, well done getting Elon in here. The very first time I hopped on a Twitter Space, he was in as a listener, but I think this is only the second space I've ever seen him in speaking. So well done to you guys. And I wanted to ask you a question. Here, hang on one second. Come back to me if you can.
Okay, no worries. Jane, I see you have your hand up as well. Let's go to you, Jane.
Yeah, great space. Thanks for letting me up. I just wanted to say, even though Elon Musk left, that if we can pay $8 for Twitter Blue in Bitcoin, and I would love to know that. So if anybody can pass that on, please do.
I don't know if we can. I don't know if I got a DM from him. Romy, check if I got a DM from Elon. But he wasn't. I don't think he's listening to the space now.
My checkbox experience. I've never been able to qualify, no matter how many followers, no matter how engaged I get.
You don't have. Hold on. You don't have a blue checkbox.
I still can't buy one. It's not available in
They stopped it. They stopped
it
yesterday, bro.
Huh?
They stopped it yesterday or the day before. They because a lot of people were abusing it.
Yeah. The process for getting a checkmark before Twitter Blue was you needed to prove that you had a lot of people pretending to be you. That was
which I
always
do.
the process.
I got bloody message every single day of people hacking and requesting Bitcoin.
You know what's funny, Simon? When you are talking in my spaces, it says next to your name, "Beware impersonators."
Exactly. I honestly, so many people have lost money because I just haven't been able to get that blue tick. Like, it's literally every day I'm just dealing with these people that are just impersonating and requesting Bitcoin, and I can't get that blue tick. Every time I go on the thing, it says you don't qualify yet. I don't know what I got to do to qualify. I got to become Kim, like create some technology, contribute to WikiLeaks.
It's only released in.
You should have mentioned it earlier. I will email someone and I'll get that for you, man.
Oh, nice.
Easy.
See, sometimes I've got to remember what my network can do. I just forget.
Alex and Jane, are your hands up or no? Just want to see if
mine is.
I
wanted to go to. Oh, go ahead, Jane.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to finish from my last comment. So I just want to say hi to Kim. Congrats on the baby and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. You're sweet. I appreciate it.
Hi. When did you have a baby, Kim?
Just actually 2 weeks ago now.
Well, why didn't you come on the space while she's delivering?
Kim has a baby every
Why
year.
didn't I come on the space? What the fuck?
I thought we're close, Kim. I thought we're close. I thought we're gonna celebrate live in the space.
Ever since I've known Kim, he has like a new baby every year.
All right, yo, have a good night, guys. This was fun.
Thanks, Blau. Appreciate you, bro.
I think it would be way more exciting to make babies on Twitter Spaces than have them, but that's just my opinion.
Well, the truth is,
there's an industry
Elon
for that.
and I have a competition, right? So whenever I have a baby, he has another baby, and then we're competing that way.
Alex, you had your mic, your hand up, bro.
Yeah. So I mean, I just wanted to take it back to like a slightly more like serious topic. I mean, obviously, with all the events this week, there is going to most certainly be like a regulatory crackdown of some type. And I wanted to just kind of do like a quick little monologue here and get people's take because, look, I think it's really important that people start to like understand the specifics of what regulation we might see out of this and why it would be damaging. So the specific bill that they said that they're going to move forward with now is the Digital Commodities Consumer Protection Act, or DCCPA. And basically what this is going to push for is, number one, it's going to move crypto and DeFi under the control of the CFTC. And as part of that, it's going to add a lot of overhead that I think is going to go against some of the core tenets of crypto. So obviously one of the core tenets of crypto is the fact that it should be decentralized. And if you have, a centralized governing agency at the United States that can basically tell every DeFi app, which in exchange, which by the way, will be required to register with the CFTC to operate in the US, according to this bill, that hurts the decentralization piece as well as the permissionless piece. There's also the fact that there's been talk of possibly, and at least this is what SBF was pushing in a lot of his proposed regulations, was, doing things like forcing DeFi applications to KYC on their front ends, allowing the CFTC to add, additional fees on users to help maintain the program. So I just think it's really important that people understand that it would be very easy to regulate away a lot of the actual value prop of DeFi. And so coming out of this, I just, I want to make sure that we're all doing a good job of educating people on, what good regulation looks like, because frankly, a lot of the regulation that's being proposed is bad. And the way to know that something's bad from a regulatory perspective for crypto is if it attacks one of those core tenets. So I don't know. I just wanted to move us to that because we have a big audience here. And for the people that are really serious about, seeing the space continue to grow and mature and not be basically torn apart by these types of policies. It's important that people are aware.
Yeah, I'll comment on that. It's a really, really, really important distinction between what is actually, layer one decentralization versus centralized companies. So look, the lesson from this is if you had regulated custody, then that would have prevented FTX. If you had regulated securities, that would have prevented Celsius. If you had regulated lending, that would have prevented Voyager. Voyager went down because of bad lending practices. Celsius went down because they were selling illegal securities and got everyone to put their life savings in. And FTX went down because they weren't segregated client money correctly and they were dipping into the cookie jar to pump and save a token. So all of those regulations we've seen over the last century, they're all needed. We learned this in the 1907 panic, the 1920s pump and dump, and everything that's happened since. However, regulators are also corrupt, and centralized companies and governments also need to be checked and controlled. That happens in two forms. It happens in competition, which is countries that see what somebody else over-regulates as an opportunity to create suitable regulations, and then the industry goes there. But secondly, decentralized finance is hugely important. We need Bitcoin to keep a central bank digital currency check and control so we have options. We need DeFi so that it improves CeFi, because people have, when they have vulnerabilities like we're experiencing right now, everybody goes to their private key and everyone goes to DeFi in order to still receive those services. So if we don't get that symbiotic relationship, then sorry, we are moving from capitalism to communism on a blockchain.
Simon, how concerned are you about the risk? I don't know if you were on the space, and you can explain it as well for the audience. The risk in which USD, Tether or Circle are forced to freeze wallets involved in the the Bahamas fiasco, and then DeFi.
It's inevitable.
But then what happens? What happens to DeFi then?
Well, exactly, and that's the direction we're headed. Whether it's a battle we win or whether it's a battle we lose depends upon building effective decentralized technology. If we're just simply creating centralized technology that has attack vectors that you slap a decentralized sticker on, then developers are just going to end up in prison with no limited liability. So the importance of actually having decentralization, and I know to me that goes back to proof of work, but it's very concerning, because if you're asking governments to no longer care about tax collection, no longer care about surveillance, then you're fighting in the wrong direction. And the only way to do that is to build effective technology that they can't stop, because Bitcoin was meant to fail and Bitcoin was never meant to succeed. But it got through because they laughed at it, and it got to a certain size, and then enough politicians owned it where they didn't want it to fail. And so you've got to go through that adoption cycle.
But my question is, like, where is, with Bitcoin was launched in late 2008, early 2009, NFTs in 2017. So it hasn't been a few months, been a few years. We're still very early. But my question is, and I've expressed this concern on more than one occasion. I know we all want decentralization, but we're not heading in that direction across the entire space, from DeFi with the example we just gave, and NFTs with the centralization of OpenSea and Magic and other exchanges. And we've seen examples in the centralized exchanges and the amount of volume they do. So while we've seen movement towards decentralized exchanges and obviously DeFi and even decentralized marketplaces for NFTs, I'm not sure the experiment will succeed. I hope it does. There is a likelihood it will, but decentralization to this day is still an experiment. And after the last few months and the last 3 days, that experiment isn't looking that good. And we may see, I just want to make sure that, I don't know if you agree with me, but I want to be a contrarian here and say something that many would not like, but I'm just trying to be a realist. We may see The same thing we saw in Web 1.0, where people thought the web would lead to complete decentralization. People think blockchain. We have the possibility of decentralization and true digital ownership, but it doesn't mean that it will work, or if we even get there.
The irony of all of this is that decentralization often needs sovereign support. And I know that sounds like the complete opposite. So, as I said, there was no guarantee that we were going to get Bitcoin succeeding. It just did. It shouldn't have.
True.
And there's no guarantee that we'll get DeFi succeeding. In fact, it's highly unlikely. At the end of the day, it's a battle to fight. But the way you win a battle like this is by having aligned self-interest with various jurisdictions. So the importance of, say, a Bitcoin standard is that you have jurisdictions whose country's future is bet upon a flippening happening between CBDCs and Bitcoin, which I think is a great bet for any country suffering hyperinflation. And when they do it, so for example, I moved to the Isle of Man because in 2014 they wanted to make Bitcoin legal tender, and they invited me over to speak on and work with the government on it. And they had essentially the FBI didn't want online gaming to exist, and the government came out and said, we'll put together an appropriate regime for all of the online gaming companies to move over here. And they wanted to employ, they employed 20% of the island, and they became, it's illegal to borrow. The Isle of Man government is illegal for them to borrow. And so they had to make profit. They operated like a startup and a business because they couldn't just print on borrow because they were reliant upon the Bank of England. And so you get those, when you align a country with the technology, then you create a safe haven for the companies to innovate and continue. And then you've got a chance and a shot. Because when the FBI came in and wanted to shut down all the online gambling companies, the Isle of Man government actually said no and kept them out and allowed the industry to prevail. And then online gaming continued. But if it wasn't for the Isle of Man standing up to the FBI, and this is interesting that we have Kim on this because Kim has been at the center of technology standing up to the most powerful forces in the world. You can get the squashing of an industry. Now, what's interesting about today's geopolitics is we're probably at the switch of an empire, and in the switch of an empire, if a country is becoming more and more powerful, and another country is becoming less and less powerful, those are the times when you can have attacks on fiat currencies in order to change the power shift of the world, which is why the importance of sovereign adoption of this technology. And then they want to protect it, and they protect it through allowing the technology to prevail and exist.
Another question, by the way, chat, if there's anyone with their hand up, do you remember I can't see chat?
Yes,
so
I
I'm
was about to
on...
break in right there. So Alex has his hand up. So Alex, we'll go to you right now.
Yeah, I was just going to respond to something Simon was saying, as well as you, Mario, which is, when it comes to this like decentralization experiment and, where we are in that battle right now, I think there's actually a really good corollary in another industry. So if you look at, both what happened with like Uber and Airbnb, let's take Uber specifically. It was like a question of trade-offs where in a lot of ways, similar to crypto, we were decentralizing things away from the taxi medallion system to the fact that anyone could participate if they had an internet connection. And while there were things that theoretically made the experience better, there were things that also made it worse. And it's really important to keep in mind that Travis Kalanick, the founder of Uber, when he launched Uber, not only was like Uber and ride sharing in a gray area legally, there were times where it was just straight up illegal what they were doing, but it was his tenacity and the willingness to push through that actually bent regulators to the industry and not the other way around. And frankly, I think if we want to see crypto and Web3 reach its full potential, we need more Travis Kalanick types in the industry. If we have people that are just going to, bend at every, step of the way, we're not going to actually get to the point where there is a viable alternative. And so just something to keep in mind there, because again, we've seen this happen in other industries. And if Travis Kalanick had, at every request of regulators, followed the direction, we would not have Uber today. We would still be stuck with a singular option with taxis.
How many steps back have we taken in the last 3 days, in the last 3 months, in the last 12 months?
Well, I think the whole on what you're speaking on with Travis, and in terms of steps back, I feel like big thesis for people in crypto is that we'll figure out a way to self-regulate, which would postpone at the very least the need for regulators to come in the industry. And I think that what this bull run has proven is that with self-regulation, these are the kind of things that happen. And so it feels like it's a pretty big step back in terms of regulators are likely going to need to respond to this. And in history, like, the regulators don't make, the best decisions that will, encourage more people to build in the United States. But to my response on the Travis Kalanick thing, I think that the consequences in crypto are so much larger. Like, I point to the fact that guys like Suzu and Do Kwon are fine, but like the guy that created Tornado Cash, just created it, is in jail now, I think, for almost the rest of his life. And so
they were going to throw Travis in jail as well, though. They actually walked into the Uber offices at one point with a warrant for his arrest. Like, it was just as serious for him.
Just so you know, in the audience, I'm seeing Jeff Garzik here. He's an early Bitcoin core developer in the time when it really, really shouldn't have succeeded.
Yeah, bring him up. If you want, if you want to put your hand up, bro, it'd be great to bring you up. Frank, to the point you did, it'd be great to bring him up. Chet, please do.
What
Frank,
was the name of that user?
What's the username, Simon? Simon, you there? All right. Just DM. Something? Yeah, Jeff, you put your hand up. Otherwise, Romy, just DM Simon and get the handle, please. Frank, the point you made about self-regulation, that drove me crazy in 2017, 2018. Everyone was talking about, people were hating on the SEC and hating on regulators, say, leave us the fuck alone, let us self-regulate. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, guys, I don't see any country or society self-regulating, or in history, self-regulating without a certain system in place, without anyone making the decision, without a democracy in place. So while regulators are not great, we're not great at, managing things ourselves. And we saw the results of that. Like the experiment started in 2017, and that was a sexy thing to say. And now we saw the outcome of that. So I just don't. Yeah. I don't know how long it will take for us to be able to convince regulators that, hey, let us continue on that path towards decentralization. There's gonna be hiccups. It will work. Just give us more time. We just fucked up so badly in the last few months.
And I'll add to that, even and this might be a more controversial take, but for me, I'm not even gonna shill, but I run an NFT project. And for me, all I really want is clarity on regulation. And I think I side more with what Brian Armstrong was saying in response to Elizabeth Warren, who was saying, the SEC needs to step in with this whole FTX thing. And he basically responded and said, hey, they're outside of the U.S. It's not even within the jurisdiction. But the problem of why people are even moving outside of the U.S. is not that, it's necessarily people are worried about regulation. I think for a lot of the top actors, I think it's that there's literally no clarity on a lot of core issues when it comes to crypto. And what most, I think, of the good actors in the space are looking for is simply, more clear regulation around crypto. And I think that is what's missing. And the sad thing about things like this happening today with FTX, over the last week with FTX, is that it just feels like whatever regulation does come down, we're not going to get the fair shake on it. And it's not going to be good. It's going to be bad, but the optimistic hope is that we get clear, hopefully somewhat fair regulation so that people can keep building in the United States. But crypto is going to continue to exist, but it does feel like it's just going to continue to move more and more outside of the United States with all the things that have been happening recently.
No, I don't know. I just want to argue that point. So everyone was. Go ahead. So was that you who was speaking? Sorry.
No, that was just me.
Let me just mention about the US quickly. Frank, back in 2017 as well, a lot of people expressed concern that crypto and all that brain power will leave the US because regulators were, in some people's eyes, too strict. But then kind of the opposite happened. I'll tell you, us as VCs, you know, we're invested in 100 and whatever, 150, 160, 170 projects. And we are more at ease investing in a project where the team is based in Western Europe, in the US, mainly because we know they're less likely to fuck shit up. So look, regulation is, you know, if we had, it's our friend right now. In the short term, it's our friend. If we had regulation, I know I'll get a lot of hate for this, but if we had regulation, we wouldn't be where we are today. So I think we need regulation. We need to follow the rules. This is a perfect example. I've given an example of, there's a gentleman that Binance has been convincing, and I've been talking a lot about him. I've met him a few times, and Binance keeps trying to convince him to come in as a chairman. He's like, Mario, I'm not going to do it because too much reputational risk. I'm like, bro, you're crazy. This is Binance. And he kept saying that to me. And then a few weeks ago, I met him, and I'm like, man, just at least accept to be an advisor. He's like, all right, I'll think about it. He didn't accept, and look at the situation now. Now there's no way he'll even consider it. Now when I see him, he'll say, I told you so. So I just think we need to stop hating on regulators. We just need to keep building within the regulatory framework in place and slowly break out of it, because decentralization does take a long time.
The issue is really quick. The issue is with regulators is how they're chosen. So when they're bought and paid for, like Gary Gensler, and then they're using their position of power to allow certain people to do certain things, that's where we have a problem. I don't know if you've heard about his involvement with what went down with FTX, but he was helping them to work out legal loopholes to obtain like regulatory a monopoly on the market. So, I mean, he's supposed to be helping the little guys, and instead he's literally funneling money to, a one side of the political everything. So I don't want to turn it political in here, but that's literally what Gary Gensler, the chair of the SEC, was doing. And he needs to go down for all of this. And I hope that Elon Musk, Kim Kardashian, and all of them take this opportunity to go after him.
Well, Mario, let me chime in on this, if I may.
You always may.
All right, so the regulators are not our friends. They're going to fuck us. The government doesn't want crypto to get in the way of their own desires. So, right now we are in competition with what the government has to offer, and they don't like that. Fiat is going to die, obviously, at some point, and the government is looking at, how are we going to do our own crypto, where we have full control, where we have a social score, where we can surveil all transactions and have even more granularity and more detail about how people spend their money. But even worse, we can then interject ourselves, and those who are not acting the way we want, those who are outside of the norm and speaking out against government programs or government action, those will be punished. They will not be able to go and buy groceries or pay their rent simply because they have an opinion that they consider disinformation or misinformation. So, regulators are not our buddies. We shouldn't be looking for them for guidance or anything like this. They are ultimately going to execute what the wishes of the bankers and the corporate elites are and what the government wants, and they do not want a crypto community that is competing with fiat currency or their current existing financial system. Even more so because now we have BRICS Plus coming around the corner, wanting to de-dollarize the global financial system and replace the US dollar reserve currency with kind of their own joint reserve currency. So we are living in a space right now that is more hostile to crypto than ever. And I've been saying this for years. The crypto community needs to prepare for this, needs to understand what's happening, and needs to really push for utilization and making non-custodial apps that cannot be seized, exchanges that cannot be seized or shut down. Like, we need to get ready for war because that's what's coming.
Kim, I would love to have this discussion with you. I've got immense respect for you, and you're always welcome to the space, as you know. Why do you think regulators are at war with crypto? And you're not alone. Most people in the space think that, but why?
Well, who are regulators? They are representatives of the government. The government tells them what they want, what their desires are, what their plans are, and the regulators are just executing on that. And now you have a guy, Joe Biden, who's turning 80, who has no clue. He was 60 the time the internet came out. This guy has absolutely no clue, and all he wants is to make sure that the US dollar remains the unchallenged global reserve currency.
True.
And crypto is a challenger to that.
I would say
And
Bitcoin.
that's,
Would you say Bitcoin is a challenger, not crypto in general? Like NFTs and stuff would be different, correct?
well, here's the thing. We're still early days in the crypto space. This is still a young, developing scene. So I wouldn't call any winners yet. If you are aware, only about 4% of people that use the internet have ever even used crypto. So we are still absolutely early days. And that's why I refer to everything here in the space in the word crypto, because it's not Bitcoin, it's not Ethereum. We don't know yet who the big winner is going to be at the end of the day.
But would you agree that if Celsius was regulated or if FTX was regulated, we wouldn't be in this position? So would you agree at least that in the short term, regulators, I'm not going to say our friends, because it's obviously it's not true, but I would also not put them as enemies. I would say, like, they're trying to understand it. They will prefer the status quo. As humans, generally, we prefer the status quo. But in the short term, while we experiment, while we test, just trying to follow the systems in place, the regulatory frameworks in place, would be a better choice as we build decentralization. And then eventually decentralization will be big enough, different protocols will be decentralized enough, where then regulators being against crypto would not matter. Would you agree that in the short term, maybe following regulation would be a good idea to avoid fiascos like we had with FTX, or even in the short term, we shouldn't be following, we should still be fighting regulators?
Well, let's be very clear. Why do we have a situation like this? It's because people don't understand what crypto is all about. It's not about speculating on fucking exchanges and swapping between cryptos and making a bit of fast money here, fast money there. Crypto was created to be utilized, to replace the existing financial system. That is what Satoshi set out to do, right? But everyone else is not getting the message. It's not about trying to make a quick buck with the latest altcoin or the latest NFT. That's all bullshit. You're all missing the point. What crypto is all about is that we are using it, utilizing it for real commerce, for paying our rent, for buying groceries, paying with it in the restaurants. That's what we need to be working for. And by the way, anyone who puts their crypto in any exchange has completely missed the point. It's your keys, your crypto, your power. Why would you hand that to anyone else?
Yeah. Mario, may I jump in here quickly on this one, because I have a more balanced view on regulation.
Who's speaking, sir? Because I can't see the stage.
Sorry,
it's glitching.
It's Monty.
Okay.
I'm CEO of LCX,
okay.
a centralized exchange. And I do believe in a lot of things Kim pointed out in terms of what crypto's vision is. But crypto can do much more. And that's what we are seeing right now, that it's not only following this decentralized vision and creating this new monetary system with Bitcoin, but blockchain as a whole can also disrupt the current financial system. And that's what we are seeing with the case of FTX, where a centralized entity is coming up. And when I look at that on the regulatory part, I do feel that the US is at war, or the SEC is at war of crypto. Everything they do is not helping the industry, but making it much worse. And everything they did had been like failing so hard. Basically, the steps had been taken against some so-called digital securities like XRP, or even LTX had been now mentioned in a case. This is not the right way to do regulation. What we are proud of, we have the L in the name, and we're in Liechtenstein. And Liechtenstein has come up with a regulation which has a balanced view And the FTX case would not have happened if the Liechtenstein regulation would have been adopted at FTX with a simple rule: keep customer funds separate to company funds. So nobody needs to look at the balance sheet of a company, how much debt they have, because the customer funds are always separate. And this is like, gets me outraged if I see this discussion about regulation, because this is a simple rule. It's like integrity of every CEO out there who has any like brain to and also keeps like the trust of the community on his shoulders and say, okay, of course we have to separate the customer funds. Like, we can't use them to speculate or move around. And that's something which is at the core of the Blockchain Act in Liechtenstein as a like small country. But this is now also then taking over to MiCA. And I think that's a basic thing which is good. A lot of other regulations taking probably a step too further, which might harm innovation. And that's also very, very bad if regulations now, like what we see is they might step up and come up with like crazy rules, which kills a lot of innovation and protocols, which is totally stupid as well. So we need to get a very balanced view on regulation, and then things like that, like FTX, should not happen, really.
Simon, go ahead.
It's what the mistake people make is they put one context for all. So, you know, there's bad regulation versus good regulation. So I personally believe AML is bad regulation and investor protection is good regulation. But then when they get it where it doesn't allow people to invest because they get lazy regulation, then you just need to, you know, those are bad regulations. But you definitely don't not want regulation. A company like Bank to the Future, you want us to have accountability to a regulator where we have to segregate client funds. When we say it's custody, it is custody. We need a disaster recovery plan. We need a business continuity plan. And regulators hold us accountable to all those things, which everybody should want in any of these exchanges that didn't have those policies. And, you know, even securities laws, the essence of them is don't invest more than you can afford to lose, which is suitability, and disclose. So you don't have people just saying things that you know, just are not disclosing material information that you should know when you're investing in a company. But then you have things that shouldn't be regulated, and Bitcoin needs no regulation. Once you can replicate something like Bitcoin in DeFi, then you don't need the regulation on there because you've removed the middlemen. And when you remove the middlemen, remember, all of these AML regulations effectively were lazy policing, where they said, let's just put a company in the middle and make them do the government's work, where they have to detect all the crime and they have to do everything. And then they go to prison if they don't detect it. When you have the peer-to-peer relationship, you just move law enforcement where they can just sit there and analyze blockchains and they can decide, you know, to find the hacker rather than the company having to do it. So what most people do is they put one hat on and then they analyze everything from that context when there's different contexts.
And one other thing to keep in mind, so we have financial institutions, they have these massive safety nets in place. Like Wells Fargo, 2008, they got 25 billion. Bank of America, 15 billion. JP Morgan Chase, 25 billion. Citigroup, 25 billion. So if you're going to put the same level of regulation on cryptocurrency exchanges that you have on the banks and other things like that, then you need to also have the same safety nets. You can't have it be one way or the other. And that said, I'm still way more pro decentralization. Don't hold your money on exchanges. But still, I mean, it has to be fair, right?
Who was speaking just now?
That's Matt Wallace.
Matt, I knew that voice. Matt, what happened to Dogecoin today, bro? Everything you do, you're the biggest name in Dogecoin, one of the biggest names in Dogecoin, and then here I am getting Elon to say whatever to the moon, Doge to the moon. I shouldn't be doing that. You should be on stage trying to get Elon to pump moon. I feel so shit doing that because we and you debated Doge a few weeks ago. But just back to the regulation part. Yeah, I just to conclude, and Simon, I'm glad you're still here. I just want to see, and Kim, if you want to disagree, please do. But I just want to see a more balanced view towards regulation. I think this is a wake-up call, but I think it doesn't really matter. I think it's just too late. I think what we're gonna see in the next few weeks and few months is gonna be pretty ugly. We were trying to chase one extreme, like regulators leave us alone, and what we're gonna have now is regulators, fucking us over the next few months. Whereas a balanced middle would have been perfect, but we're kind of past
Mario,
the point of no return.
What's going to happen though is the people that lost money are going to beg regulators.
Exactly.
Because they're going to say, "Why did you let this happen to me? You should have done something." And then they'll react to that and say, "Yes, cool, all right, we'll make it all securities and accredited investors only because we don't want to deal with you."
And Dima, I see that
This
your
creates
hand
a
is up.
death spiral of the regulation, basically, because the regulators always lose out of their mission, which is investor protection. But what they actually do is keeping out the kind of majority mass market out of the good deals, and basically not protecting them, but rather protecting them of their opportunities of choice. So I think every person should be able to choose whatever asset they'd like to invest in, but it goes much more beyond this protection thought, because they're actually pushing us on the side, and that's like a bad thing in that way. So I think they're stepping the things which will be happening might not help the industry, but rather hurt it at the moment. So that's where I'm worried.
And it happens every time, Simon. I like him. Who was speaking just now, by the way? Was it you,
Monty.
Kim? Oh, Monty.
Monty,
Okay.
okay.
I thought it was Kim's voice changed a bit. Simon, I like that you mentioned that point. In 2017, everyone was like, regulators, leave us alone. Don't ruin the party. In 2018, everyone was like, regulators, hey, all these ICOs scammed us. Help us get our money back. And then last year, everyone's like, regulators, don't screw up the party. And now everyone's going to regulators in the legal system to help them get at least part of their money back.
Yeah, so regulators react, and then it moves from and then once they've got what they want, it moves from investor protection to tax collection to crony capitalism protection.
And I think if someone had his hand up, you said, Chet?
Yes, Dima, go ahead and
Dima, good to see you again, bro.
Okay, hi everybody. What a morning! Wow, SBF, the wallet was compromised. I want to comment about regulations. So, guys, it's if it's a US-based exchange, then the regulator can put some obstacles on operations. If it's non-US based exchange, basically, the only way to affect the exchange is to limit withdrawals and deposits from their fiat gateways. So the biggest regulator is in this industry right now can only be community, and probably CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap. And the fact that right now we saw kind of push, but I think not enough push of people discussing proof of funds, and that every exchange should pass the proof of funds test. This is a good sign. But we saw the same situation with Quadriga CX, when everybody was talking the same thing, that every exchange should prove that their assets can cover their liabilities. But there was only a few months of talks,